How high is too high for Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson? We're talking all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Dynasty.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Matt Williamson and Ryan McDowell.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. I'm your host, Ryan McDowell. You can follow me on Twitter at RyanMC23. Joining me, as always, he's back, former NFL scout Matt Williamson. Follow Matt on Twitter at WilliamsonNFL. Matt, we missed you last week. We had a fill-in Matt, my buddy from DLF, Matt Price. We had some good conversation about the Bengals and the Browns, but we're glad you're back in the hot seat here. How was your trip?
It was excellent. We went to Hilton Head from Pittsburgh, which is a far drive. It's 11, 12 hours, something like that. And my son had the bright idea of let's make it a college trip too. He's 16. Nice. My daughter's 15. So we hit North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, South Carolina, Coastal Carolina, East Carolina. Ooh. I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but we were in the car a lot. We're all happy to be home, but it was cool. It made me want to go back to college, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I've road trip through North Carolina and South Carolina. Tons of colleges in those two states. So I know you had plenty to see. Well, we're going to talk about a recent college player. That's Anthony Richardson and his teammates on the Indianapolis Colts. Before we get into the buys, the sells, and the holds, we are continuing that series focused on trading team by team. We've got just two divisions left, Matt. So this week and next week, and we will have covered every single team in the NFL from a buy, sell, and hold perspective. Let's talk about these players on the Colts. We're using June DLF Dynasty ADP for this information. That is the single quarterback ADP. So you'll see the rookie Richardson pushed down a little bit compared to what he might be in a super flex league. We've got Jonathan Taylor at the top of the list for the Colts. He is the RB2 currently in Dynasty. Michael Pittman is wide receiver 19. There's Richardson at quarterback 9. Josh Downs, another rookie, wide receiver 57. Alec Pierce, wide receiver 66. Jelani Woods, tight end 26. And finishing up with Evan Hull at RB 74, another rookie. And another tight end, Kylan Granson, tight end 40. Now, Matt, a little bit of a spoiler alert here. Each week we go through, we list our buys, our sells, and our holds. We kind of confer on those a little bit. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. We didn't list Anthony Richardson as a buy, a sell, or a hold. Neither of us did. But when you're talking Colts, I really think he's maybe the most important player to talk about right now from a dynasty standpoint. Richardson at quarterback 9, Matt, what do you think? Is that too high already at this point?
I don't know about too high, but coincidentally, we did not plan this out. But on Tuesday's Peacock and Williamson, we went through the top 10 offenses and worst 10 offenses in Football Outsiders DVOA metric, which I think is a very, very good indicator of how those specific units perform on their own. Colts were dead last. I mean, with all respect to Matt Ryan, had a great career. He was a horrible quarterback last year. Horrible. And then there's the Jeff Saturday era. I mean, Taylor missed a little bit of time even. It was Nelson wasn't as good as ever. So where I'm going with this is I think this entire team is much, much more of a buy than a sell. And, of course, that centers around the quarterback more than anybody. I'm a big Richardson believer. I need to check the Vegas odds here, and I know we have a sponsor that will tell us about these such things, but I like his chances of being offensive rookie of the year. I'm sure Bijan is the leader in the clubhouse, but I think Richardson is a better passer than people think. He's supposedly a very hard worker, smart dude, anxious to learn. I think he's in a great environment to do so. So I'm on board big time with Richardson, as well as pretty much all these dudes.
Well, that's good to hear. Let's switch over to the actual Dynasty ADP here. Getting back to that overrated, underrated kind of discussion. Mahomes, Allen, Hurts at the top, Burrow, Lamar, Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. We're going to talk about the Jags tomorrow, by the way. And then Justin Fields at quarterback 8. And then you've got Richardson. So he's ahead of Deshaun Watson. He's ahead of Dak Prescott, certainly ahead of his fellow rookies, Young and Stroud. No real surprise there. Ahead of Kyler Murray and Tua, a couple guys we have some injury concerns about. Does that feel right to you? The Watson one is obviously, I think, the most interesting one to discuss or debate there.
Yeah, I jotted a couple things down as you were saying that, because I could absolutely picture a really easy story to tell where Watson and or Dak, but especially Watson, is 6 this time next year. Or, you know what I mean? That those guys rebound and are really good players in good situations. So I get that. Lawrence, to me, I like a little bit better for the real world than fantasy, because I know he's a good runner, but, I just think that he's not a great runner and isn't going to run a ton, especially once he gets expensive. And we'll get to the Jags tomorrow, but Tank Bigsby's going to get carries and things of that nature. But Richardson and Fields are almost exact equal value to me. And I know we have 2 more years of experience to watch Fields, and he was a better passer in college than Richardson, but I think Richardson will be every bit the runner, and he's going into a much better situation than Fields played in his first 2 years.
That's a good point. They are back-to-back, quarterback 8 and 9 are Fields and Richardson. Looking at the exact ADP, Fields 65 overall, Richardson 78 overall. So essentially a round separating those two players. I think I agree with you that they should be closer than that. It's funny. I was looking at the Bears pass catchers yesterday. You talk about how bad of a situation that was. The Bears were the only team in the league last year that did not have a single pass catcher to produce a 100-yard game in 2022. So no Cole Kmet, no Darnell Mooney. Maybe we shouldn't be surprised, but not a single 100-yard game by the Bears team last year.
Ooh, that's rough.
Matt, let's move on over to the buys, the players on this Colts team. And you've already said you really want pieces of all of these guys, but let's try to narrow it down. Who are you buying on this Indianapolis Colts roster?
Well, I love to reference the great Matt Harmon, who is very good at his job. And his reception perception of Michael Pittman came out last week. I don't know. I read it on vacation. Glowing. And he has been since the beginning. And he really thinks Pittman's always been held back by Ryan, quick hitters, but he thinks Pittman's a much more well-rounded receiver than that. And I agree. So he kind of compares him to Michael Thomas in his prime. So I think the world just doesn't see Pittman that way, and he's not going to have Drew Brees throwing to him, but I think he's a underrated talent, and I very much agree with Matt in that regard.
Yeah, Pittman, you can look at the quarterback situation, a little bit of a carousel there with bringing in different veteran quarterbacks over the past couple of years. And he really just hasn't gotten it done. He has 5 wide receiver 1 games in his 3-year career. Didn't have any as a rookie a couple of years ago. So he's been a wide receiver 1 in just 11% of his games. Does have 22% as a wide receiver 2. So it kind of feels like he's on the cusp here of a breakout season. Obviously, Anthony Richardson could help make that happen, or we could be sitting here a year from now saying he ran the ball great, but he was a liability as a passer. And I could really see Pittman going either way. Honestly, if I had to label Pittman in one of these categories, and I didn't focus on him any of mine, but I would put him in that hold category just because of some hesitation there. You look at the trade finder over at DLF and some interesting deals. The most recent one, Michael Pittman for Damian Pierce and a 2024 first rounder. That's pretty pricey. What do you think there?
That's pretty pricey. I'm a little shocked it costs
Yeah.
that much to get him. Yeah, I mean, if that's the cost, then I would move him to a hold, to your point. But he's a buy for me just because I think he's a better football player than fantasy asset right now. And those tend to correct themselves. Sometimes it takes years, though.
Yeah. Michael Pittman for Darnell Mooney, the 2.11 this year, and a 2024 first rounder. So again, you're giving a first rounder plus. Here's one I like a little bit more, although this is still, I like the deal giving away Pittman, actually. DJ Moore and Michael Pittman for Chris Olave. What do you think about that one?
Well, I understand it in a big way.
Yeah,
I probably would
I
take
get
the
it too.
two, though. I think I went the other side, though.
Okay. I'm going with Olave.
Olave's great. But yeah, I hear you.
So certainly not cheap is Michael Pittman, but that's going to be another one. Kind of check in on your league, see what the price is, because I think his value varies greatly from league to league, from manager to manager. Really quickly, I'm going to throw mine out. Josh Downs, rookie receiver. He is the wide receiver 57. Probably lost some value as he fell a little bit further in the NFL draft than maybe we thought he would. I'm taking advantage of that. If he's a late second rounder in rookie drafts, I'm grabbing him there. Certainly, if I can buy him for a second rounder, a couple third rounders, I'm interested in that also. I do have some hesitation about how many pass catchers on this team can really produce with Richardson, with Taylor, both running the ball. The pass catchers in general might be slow to really develop.
Real quick on Downs is I've drafted him in 80% of my rookie draft, so I love him. Nice. My only concern is a small catching radius getting the football from an inaccurate quarterback. That could be a bad recipe, but I like the player.
That's fair. That is fair.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to talk about a player to sell from this Colts roster that we're pretty excited about. So it was tough to find to sell, but we'll talk about one of those and who we are holding on to from this Colts roster.
Told you guys about FanDuel, and baseball season now is in full swing. There's no better place to get it on the action than FanDuel, of course, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get the no sweat first bet up to $1,000. So that's $1,000 back in bonus bets, $1,000. If your first bet doesn't win, just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to join today. So again, I kind of mentioned the Richardson thing. I might have to look into that as soon as we hit the turn the record button off. So you don't miss your chance to snag a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Again, just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission.
Man, I said it was a hard task to really find a player to sell on this roster. I guess I was speaking for myself there. We do agree on the player we're selling from this Colt team. Who is it?
Jonathan Taylor. And I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think he's a must go. I got to get him off my roster now while I still can. I think he'll have a better year this year than last. I think everyone in the Colts offense will have a better year than last. But he's a running back. Third year in the league, right? I mean, it's that time, or fourth year in the league. Is that, I think, is Taylor's situation. And in a Josh Allen-like manner, I'm sure that he will lose out on some goal line touchdowns.
Yeah, that's really it. And I do agree with you that it's not a going into his fourth year. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah.
I do agree that it's not a must sell. If you've got Taylor on your roster and you're a contending team, you know, it's fine to roll into 2023 with him there. But I would personally be looking to move on from him. And we'll talk about some of the prices that we're seeing. It's really almost nothing against Taylor. Although after last year, I think it's fair to have some concerns. It's just the running back who is this highly valued. He's still going in the first round of our dynasty startups. I'm probably going to pivot from that player to either a wide receiver or to a lesser running back with some additional pieces. I can move from Taylor to Breece Hall and get anything. I would do that. I've got Hall ranked ahead of Taylor, so that would be an easy decision for me. If I can move to Gibbs or ETN or Josh Jacobs or Tony Pollard and get something on top, I would be interested in doing that type of move. It's really just the question of investing this high of a price and carrying this much equity at the running back position.
So doesn't even have to be a younger guy. You mentioned Pollard and Jacobs. You're just saying, give me something plus a really good back, that I can go with.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Taylor because of his age. He's 24 and although, my target would certainly depend on my current team situation.
Yeah.
If I'm a contender, I'm different.
Right.
Right. If I'm a contender, I'm glad to move to, even Eckler, McCaffrey,
okay.
Barkley, one of those guys. If they're now, I don't expect to get much back, right? If you're dropping half a tier to Barkley or Eckler or McCaffrey, you're not getting a first rounder back along with that guy, I don't think.
Right.
So you've got to, you'll probably have to drop further. Jacobs is a nice target. He's actually he is older than JT, but only by about a year. And then if I'm not contending, just give me picks and wide receivers, and that's it. I really don't want any running backs if I'm not contending this year.
Totally get it. Makes all the sense in the world. And maybe if you are doing a Jacobs, Eckler, McCaffrey deal, you get a future pick so that your youth comes later, something like that. Last nugget, and it probably means nothing, but Taylor is famously never missed a practice. Never, like high school, junior high. Well, last year he did, yeah. It probably means nothing, but
Well, it's something to it's looking at the trade finder for some JT trades. Really interesting there. I love this tool. I use it almost every day to really try to narrow down the exact value of a player and see all kinds of different trades on here. These are actual trades that have happened in real dynasty leagues. And what I try to look for when I'm focusing on a specific player, like we are here with Taylor, is I look for either those 1-for-1 trades or a trade where Taylor is alone on his side, meaning what can you really get for just Jonathan Taylor? And Matt, there's not very many trades like that.
Really?
There's a lot of package deals, 3 for 3, 2 for 2, and Taylor is just one piece of that. There are a couple on here. Jonathan Taylor for his teammate, Michael Pittman, and a first, second, and third rounder next year. So we like those second and third rounders, but essentially this is Pittman and a first for Taylor. What are you doing
I
there?
probably lean towards Pittman.
I would lean Pittman as well. And honestly, I'm not even that huge of a Pittman fan. That tells them. Here's the one we talked about, pivoting from Taylor to some of those other running backs. Taylor for Barkley plus a second and a third rounder next year. That's one of those where you have to.
Right.
You really just get it like almost like a redraft, as we say on here so many times. Who do you like better for this year? I do still like Taylor, but I think it's close. Is the second and third enough to pivot? Probably wouldn't be for me. I think I'm taking Taylor on that one.
Yeah, I'm not super high on Barkley. I haven't done redraft rankings, but I clearly would have Taylor over Barkley for this year. So I think I'm with you on that as well.
And then last one, Jonathan Taylor for DJ Moore and a 24 first rounder.
I think Moore and Pittman are about the same value to me. So that's about the same to me. Superflex, Richardson or Taylor?
Oh, Richardson.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. For me, pretty easy.
Me too.
Definitely focus on the building around the quarterback position there. So Richardson's not up into that first round range, at least the drafts I've seen in a startup, Superflex startup, but I think he will be pretty soon, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you.
Still need to talk about the players from this Colts roster we are holding on to as the 2023 season gets closer and closer. We'll do that next. Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. Everydayers, check out tomorrow's show. We continue the buy, sell, hold conversation. We're talking about Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So check back tomorrow for that discussion. Matt, the Indianapolis Colts. We've talked about Taylor. We've talked about Richardson. We sprinkled in some Josh Downs and Michael Pittman conversation. Who from this roster are you holding on to? You just want to kind of wait and see what happens in the 2023 season.
Yeah, and again, this roster to me is much more buy than sell. Quick little nugget, Evan Hull has been a rookie draft target of mine because I think he's going to be the 2. And all I need to know is he's big and catches passes. Great. I think Alex Pierce is worth more than this wide receiver 66. Going to get a lot of single coverage when people stack the run, just throw bombs to him. But one of my new favorite hot young tight ends is Jelani Woods. I just think there's a lot of ability there. Yeah. And, could he run away with that tight end job? I think it's very possible.
Yeah, Woods is a pretty easy target for me. You look at his ADP, it's way down there, just barely inside the top 200 overall. He's at 197. He's tight end 26. I mean, he's behind Zach Ertz, honestly. And Ertz, I think he probably ends up getting cut from the Cardinals. We'll see what happens there. But I'd certainly rather take a chance on a guy like Woods versus the veteran there. But yeah, I'm with you. Really easy guy to target. If you've got him on your roster, because he's not carrying that value yet, although he certainly has some upside, I think he's absolutely a hold and would be closer to a buy for me.
Yes.
Although if you're going to try to trade for Jelani Woods, you've got to be careful with that because if you reach out to the other guy in your league, the other person in your league and say, hey, what do you want for Jelani Woods? Like,
you're going to overspend.
What's the point of them trading, right? Like you're going to either have to give a second rounder, which is probably an overpay based on current market, or you're just not going to get anywhere. They're just going to keep Jelani Woods because the current market says a third rounder or just a stash type of player, but there's so much more upside than that. So this really needs to be a situation where you're making a bigger deal and you say, hey, throw in Jelani Woods. Right. Yeah, that'll get it done. So that's probably how you need to approach the Jelani Woods trade if you were trying to target him. But in general, I agree. I'm holding on to him if I've got him on my roster. For similar reasons, I chose Alec Pierce, wide receiver 66 currently. Showed a little bit last year as a rookie, really seemed to hit a rookie wall towards the last month of the season or so. And I mean, honestly, as you kind of talked about earlier, Matt, the whole Colts offense seemed to hit a wall at different points of last season. So just as we expect big things from Anthony Richardson and Pittman and Jonathan Taylor, I think there's some upside for Alec Pierce, especially at wide receiver 66. You just have to know, and this is probably true of Downs as well, it's going to be an up and down roller coaster ride for this team. You're not getting a guy that you can plug in every single week as a fantasy starter, at least not yet.
Yeah, I mean, I like Pierce a lot. I said some good things about him before. I expect him to see a lot of single coverage, a lot of play action, deep throws to him. Richardson is not a bad deep pass guy, but he's more of a best ball type of dude because there's going to be some weeks where he's 1 for 12. I'm sure that there will be some ups and downs. I referenced Matt Harmon before, not to put words in Matt's mouth, but he kind of lumped Alec Pierce and George Pickens together. Like people don't look at those guys in the same light. But they're big, vertical X receivers. Pierce was a phenomenal tester. Big time volleyball background. I mean, I think the world's sleeping on Pierce a little bit.
Well, he's certainly cheap enough. So I think both of our players, Woods and Pierce, maybe fit more into that buy category rather than the hold as we listed them. But you're right. Really what you said at the top, this Colts offense has a chance to go from one of the worst in the league to a really fun and exciting team to watch on a weekly basis. And honestly, it really comes down to what the rookie quarterback, Anthony Richardson, can do. That is going to do it for today's show. Please make sure you download and subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Remember to follow the show at Locked On Dynasty. Follow Matt at Williamson NFL. And I'm Ryan, MC23. We'll be back next time with more Locked On Dynasty.